What if I told you that 1 in 4 kids grow up in a fatherless environment? That's 18.4 million families that are impacted by this every single year. If you grow up in a fatherless home, you have a higher probability of poverty, of crime, of mental health struggles, all kinds of different things. And we're not talking about just statistics here, guys. We're talking about real studies that have been done over the years with fatherless homes. But as dads, we actually have the power to change this. If you're listening to this show, hey, welcome here. Welcome to the Dad Edge podcast, gentlemen. I'm Larry Hagner. I'm your host and founder of this podcast, this show, and this movement. And I hope you guys are doing well and having a great week. Welcome to our Friday first downs, fumbles, and field goals. And here's what I'll tell you. It's not a fumble. I would call this information getting to you. I would call this a win. And why is it a win? Some of these statistics are terrifying. These fatherless home statistics. The National Fatherhood Initiative actually did a study on this back in 2015, and they identified 8 areas that a child's life would have improvement if a father was present. So number 1 is they're better able to control their emotions. So kids who grow up with a dad in the house, believe it or not, actually have a higher probability of understanding their own emotions and controlling them. They actually grow up with higher emotional IQ. A second area is kids will be in better physical health. So kids will be physically more fit. And if they're physically more fit, usually that means they're going to have a higher probability of being mentally more fit. So they're going to have better mental health. They're going to have better emotional health and all those different things that go along with being just fitter. Maybe that's due to the fact that maybe dads go out and play with their kids outside. I know I do. If you're listening to this podcast, you got kids, chances are you do as well. Also, kids who grow up with a dad in the home will have healthier relationships. That means healthier friendships. It also means healthier intimate relationships as they get older. Think about this for a moment. If you grew up in a fatherless home, chances are you probably struggled with intimate relationships. I know I did. It took me a long time to learn how to do these and do these right. Just a quick side note on this. So as you guys know, I have a 19-year-old, I have a 17-year-old. I'm having conversations with these kids all the time about the relationship that they have with their significant others. Both of them have girlfriends, and we talk about those things very openly. We talk about what a woman needs from a man. We talk about how a man can communicate better with a woman, how to create more psychological safety, how to fulfill a woman's 3 needs in a relationship, how to communicate your 3 needs in a relationship. All these things, we're having these conversations in our house. And if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, chances are I would bet you're having these conversations as well. The other thing too is kids will be more confident. Like, confidence is one of those things every single dad listening to this podcast, number 1, you want confidence for yourself, but you also want your kids to grow up with confidence. When our kids are more confident, they're going to, number 1, they're going to make better decisions, because if kids are more confident, they're comfortable in their own skin, they know what they stand for, they're not going to necessarily give in to peer pressure nearly as readily. They're probably going to be a little bit more choosy with their friends and who they hang out with versus like hanging out with the wrong crowd. And this is all about being more confident, more secure. They're also less likely to get involved with drugs and alcohol, especially at these younger ages. And what I can tell you is, I mean, that is absolutely true. When we have 2 parents in the house, especially a dad, and that dad can speak, words of truth and affirmation and confidence and values and morals and all these different things, our kids are less likely going to use drugs and alcohol. This actually goes back to the area we were just talking about, which is more confidence. If your kid is more confident in who they are, chances are they're not going to feel that they need drugs or alcohol. That's not to say that some of our kids aren't going to try those things. However, them being, getting addicted to some sort of substance is extremely low. It's much lower than if there wasn't a dad in the house. Another area where they found over at the National Institute for the National Fatherhood Initiative is that kids performed better in school. And again, these are kind of no-brainers. I mean, if we've got 2 sound structured parents at home, especially the dad, that kid is going to have a better shot of doing well in school. He's going to have probably a little bit more structure in the home. I'm saying he or she, they will have more structure in the home, most likely, hopefully. But statistics have definitely shown that they will perform better in school. Also, outcomes as far as wealth. Believe it or not, kids who come from a fatherless home are more likely to be poor one of the things that they found is that kids raised in a home where both parents were present, they were less likely to live a life of poverty and actually live more of a successful life and where they can build wealth. The final thing too is kids with a dad in the home were less likely to get in trouble. Believe it or not, they weren't like diving into crime. They weren't really acting out in school. They were confident, good, well-behaved kids, right? That kind of had their act together. So what do we do and how do we go about doing this as fathers? Now that we know the stats and we know the outputs, we know these really, really good outcomes if we're present, right? Here's the other thing too. It is not enough that we are physically present in the house. Man, we have got to be on point mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Never forget who we are. We are the leaders in our family, right? We are the spiritual leader in our families. We are that influence of emotional IQ. We help our kids elevate their mental health. It's shown in statistics right here at the National Fatherhood Initiative that our kids will even be physically healthier if we're present in the home. But we don't have to be a part of these statistics. Here's what I'll tell you. We need to be better about this ripple effect that's in the world. What am I talking about here? Listen, you don't have to go very far in this world to see a home that's impacted by a fatherless home. They're right there in your own neighborhood. They could be right next door to you. What would it look like if dads who were active, dads who don't just quietly listen to a podcast, right? We have millions of guys who listen to this show. But what would it look like if just a handful of us took action and had a ripple effect in our communities? What do I mean by that? So if you know, for instance, that there is a man who's a dad in your neighborhood, maybe you see this guy at the pool, maybe you see him walking around, maybe you see him at the neighborhood playground, who knows? I don't know. In the school line pickup, doesn't really matter. But you know this guy might be struggling. You know this guy might be in a world of hurt. Maybe maybe he's a friend. Maybe he's a friend of a friend. Maybe he's an acquaintance. Maybe he's somebody you don't even know. But you know that there are some bad things happening in this man's life. It could be his marriage. This could be your best friend, by the way, too. It doesn't have to be somebody you don't know. His marriage could be on the rocks. His teenage son might not want anything to do with him. Maybe he's having a really hard time connecting with his daughter. Maybe he's in a sexless, passionate, zero love marriage and he just doesn't know what to do. This is an opportunity. This is a wake-up call for all of us as men to reach out to your brothers, to check in on your brothers. The second highest cause of death for men between the ages of 25 and 52 is suicide. If that doesn't paint a picture that men are lonely, that men don't know what to do, that men feel isolated and unconnected, that statistic should hit us all in the heart. What else can we do about it? If you're a dad listening to this podcast and you're blessed with being able to walk in the home where your wife lives and where your kids live, let's not take that for granted. Let's continue to be present. And I'm not talking about just sitting there on the couch on your phone. And by the way, when I share this stuff, I'm telling myself this. I'm reminding myself of this stuff. Get off your phone and get into that room. Get off your phone and get into your kid's life through conversation, right? Be present. Play with them. Be playful. Be a playful, fun dad. One cool thing, I just interviewed a guy, a UFC fighter by the name of Bobby Maximus. You guys will be hearing him on the podcast here soon. One of the things that I struggle with as a dad myself is playing with my kids. I know it sounds kind of crazy. I don't have a problem playing with the older ones. Like we work out, we throw the football, we run around, we do fun stuff. But like the Legos and the board games and stuff like that, I like it when I'm doing it, but sometimes it's hard for me to kind of get there. But what I'll tell you is the presence aspect of when you're there and you're being playful with your kids is off the charts. And when I mentioned Bobby Maximus earlier, because I interviewed him, and that guy, he's a UFC fighter, one of the fittest dudes on the planet, but that guy knows how to play with his kids. And he did an entire interview on the importance of playing with your kids. And upon us ending that interview, I bought the Marvel Tower 5,201 piece Lego set. My kids and I are currently putting that thing together. So be present. Sometimes you need something there to help anchor you into the present moment. So sometimes it's Legos, sometimes it's basketball, sometimes it's a tea party, or sometimes go to the salon with your girl, with your daughter, and get your nails done, right? Do those types of things. The other thing too is lead by example. We are a walking, talking 3D motion picture for our kids. And what I'll tell you is there's a lot of men out there that quite frankly are asleep. They're completely asleep at the wheel. They have no idea how important their job is, and they have no idea how many little eyes are watching their every single move. And by the way, if I'm talking to you right now, and if you feel that pressure and that tension of like, oh crap, like my kids have been watching me. Well, yeah, they have. And guess what? They're taking notes. They're not telling you they're taking notes. They are taking notes. They're taking notes and they are learning by your actions, all your great things you do and all your not so great things that you do. So what better way to step up and lead by example to know that your sons and daughters are watching every single move that you make? And what would it look like to have the Oscar nominee in that movie, right? As the best of the dad of the year. That is what we're striving for. So lead by example. The other one, mentor, coach, step up with your kids. Be a coach on your kids' teams, man. Be visual, right? Don't just be in the stands, be involved, right? Be a mentor, be a coach. That is a great way to really not only get involved in your kids' lives, but get involved with the other kids in their lives. Trust me when I say I have coached my kids for well over a decade in just about every single sport that they've done. And what I can tell you is there's always a percentage of kids that do not have a dad, and they are looking at you as their male role model. You have no idea the impact that you might have on a kid's life and your own kid's life if you're coaching their teams. You'll be able to pour those words of encouragement into those kids. You'll be able to positively elevate those kids' lives. You'll be able to help that kid strive and shoot for greatness like a dad would if he was in the house. So trust me when I say, when you're coaching your kids' sports, you're going to have a better relationship with your own kids, but most likely you will have a tremendous positive impact on a kid that really, really needs a dad in his life. The final thing I'll say is this, is we need stronger fathers out there. I just had a conversation with a guy not too terribly long ago. His name is Michael Feynman. He was in the supplement space. He's now entering the dad space. I got on a call with him. He was asking me all kinds of questions about how to enter the dad space. He's like, hey man, like, you know, I don't view this as competition. Like I'm just trying to like, and I was like, dude, don't stop. This is not a competition. We actually need 100,000 dad edges out there. We need 100,000 national fatherhood initiatives out there. We need more men talking about this topic. We need more men. Like, listen, marriages and families out there are in trouble. The divorce rate is 50%. People who stay married, only 12% of people that walk down the aisle can actually identify their relationship as happy. That means 88% of people that walk down the aisle are somewhat disconnected or completely disconnected, emotionally closed off from each other. And guess what? Our kids have to grow up in that environment. That's why we need more guys talking about this topic of fatherhood, what it means to be a good man, what it means to be a good leader. We're not talking about toxic masculinity or any BS like that. We're talking about being a good man of character and integrity and helping other men do the same and inspiring other kids that are not even our own that we get to coach on other teams. That's what we get to do as dads. We have a real problem like in the world right now, as you guys know. I don't need to tell you this. We have a real problem with serious impact of what it means to grow up in a home without a father. Kids are going to be emotionally a mess. Mental health will be a mess. Their physical fitness will most likely be a mess without you a part of it. They're not going to be a healthy human being without you in their life. They're not going to feel safe and confident to navigate life without you in it. They're probably going to get wrapped up in drugs or alcohol or crime or teenage pregnancy if you are not pouring into that little kid or that little girl's life. Do that. Let's change the world. Let's continue to change the world for the good. No man is going to do this on his own. Not one brand like Dad Edge is going to do it on its own. We need 100,000 of these things. So get involved, strengthen your fatherhood communities, become a part of a community, lead by example, inspire others, talk to other men, do all these things to make the world a better place. And if you guys want to join us over in the Dad Edge Alliance, where we are having these conversations and we're doing these things and we're living this life of integrity and character, go to thedadedge.com/mastermind. We have 2 different paths for you there. One is the Alliance, that's for our career guys, and one is the Dad Edge Boardroom. You have to be a full-time business owner to be a part of that group. 2 different pathways, 2 different programs to elevate your life, to elevate your family life, your mindset, your health, your marriage, parenting, and leadership. Gentlemen, I'll see you on Monday. Go out, live legendary. Take care.